Damas y caballeros, welcome back to From Across the Pond. I'm your host, Raipul Mula, and today we are joined by Jorge from Top Bin 90, the go-to account, be it on any social, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, regarding the newest MLS franchise, Charlotte FC. So, Jorge, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Excited to be on here, man. It's really cool that MLS is expanding its horizon, and we're going international now, man. You're following us in London, which is amazing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I know Charlotte FC played earlier today against a side they're replacing in the Eastern Conference, Nashville SC. I know a lot of the preseason games are behind closed doors and not broadcast either. So did you get a chance to watch it, or was there a blackout for this one?
It was a blackout for this one, so they didn't give us a chance to watch it, and we really didn't get that many updates on it as well. So I think the club's trying to keep kind of what they're doing for now is secret till they actually have the next games will be broadcasted. So, well, I'm not sure if they'll be broadcasted, but I know we'll be able to attend them. So.
Okay. So, like I mentioned previously, obviously Charlotte are heading into their inaugural season. What's the buzz like around the city ahead of the expansion side's first season?
Man, now that we're a month away, it is rocking out here. It is getting very excited. I know the team was announced in December of 2019, and then we got pushed back a year. So it took a little bit for the buzz to get here, but now that we're a month away, like I see people all the time. I'll give you a story. I went out a couple of weeks ago with my Charlotte FC jersey on. I kid you not, 25 people stopped me and said, "Man, I'm so excited for this season. I love the shirt. I cannot wait to be at the stadium." And it's just the buzz is picking up, man.
Yeah, no, I know. There was a mixed reaction at first to the MLS, to the shirt, to the jersey. I
Yeah.
know a lot of MLS jerseys. People complain that they're too plain. They look too similar. What was your initial reaction, and what's your reaction now? I'm gathering that the fans are starting to warm to it.
Yeah, honestly, I liked it from the beginning, man. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but for what Adidas is and the product that they produce for the MLS, everything is pretty similar. And I thought the jersey was clean and it stands out because no other team has the kind of colors we do. So you'll be able to recognize it, be like, okay, that's Charlotte FC. So I really like that.
Absolutely, I think the color pops. I think
Yeah.
it looks nice. I saw some rumors about there being checks though, like like a Croatia style. I don't know, maybe if I was reading that wrong, maybe on an away kit.
So the next jersey that will be released here in the next week is the second kit, and it's going to be black and mint. So
Okay,
someone actually leaked a photo of it as well. And it's going to be like all black with mint colors on it,
okay,
which
nice.
is kind of cool because like our city's known like it's minted, so
Yeah,
it represents Charlotte really well.
yeah, and another major moment in the creation of the team was obviously the selection of the name. They chose to stick to the modern MLS approach of keeping it simple, the city name, and then FC or SC. Um, and they avoided all the old school MLS monikers, like the Rapids and Revolution. How was that received? Do you think it would have been cool for the Charlotte to go with the Charlotte Monarchs type name, or a traditional soccer name like Charlotte City?
I think it's a very like it was a safe name to go with. Like Charlotte FC is very safe. I think people would have gotten many reactions. Like there was one on there that it was called Carolina Gliders. I absolutely hated that name. I was like, I hope we're not. I like tweeted at the club every time. I was like, please remove this name. I do not want to see this. I do not want to represent the Carolina Gliders.
That
So I
sounds.
guess like you're gonna have that with almost every name. Charlotte FC is a great way of just kind of like staying in the middle.
No,
I don't
absolutely.
mind it.
Charlotte Gliders sounds like a skydiving team or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
pretty interesting because the MLS, you have the only thing I don't get is like you have Charlotte Football Club, then you have Nashville Sporting Club, then you have Club de Football Montreal. So like it's like CF, SC, FC. So it's a little bit of mix of everything.
now there's a variety. Obviously the club are heavily promoting the fact that they want to represent both North and South Carolinas. Do you think they strongly considered naming the team like Colorado, like after the states, so like Carolina United, or?
I think they really did, man. Based on some of the names there, they want to incorporate South Carolina because right now the closest teams to Charlotte would be either Atlanta or DC before we actually got our MLS team. So I think a lot of that fan base that maybe had supported Atlanta in the past is something that they considered. Because even if you look at our inaugural jersey on the bottom, it has both North Carolina and South Carolina on there, both of the states. So I think that's a way to actually represent South Carolina as well.
No, yeah, absolutely. And the club's choice to go international heavy in the roster build and coaching staff, off the back of varying success of the last two expansion franchises. Obviously, we had Inter Miami, who went with the international flavor, Diego Alonso, Rodolfo Pizarro, didn't work out too well. And then we had Nashville SC, who went MLS heavy with their experience. And that's obviously worked, and they've been competing the first couple of seasons in MLS. Why do you think they chose to go so international heavy, and given the struggles players often face in their first season in MLS?
That's a great question, man. I actually that was a question I brought up to the sporting director. Not only that, 15 of the 25 players that we've signed, they don't even have MLS experience. So you're bringing in a lot of different people, and you have a coach that's never been in this actual league. But I think from a perspective of this is what I like that the club has done. Ever since the beginning, they've always talked about wanting to play attractive, possession-based attacking football. And the coach that we've got, Miguel Angel Ramirez, suits that. The players he's getting suit that type of model of system. So to me, it's more about the planning and preparation versus actually the players that you get. If you take a look at Inter Miami, I still don't understand what they want to do, right? And this is their third season going into the MLS, right? Versus Charlotte has had a plan from the beginning. And not only that, but in every line, you have proven winners. So not only do you have players that fit that style, but you also have players that have won a Premier League like Christian Fuchs, an MLS Cup like a fool, Brasileirão Serie A like Alan Franco, the Greek League with Swiderski. So you have people that are coming in that have already tasted that winning mentality, and I think that's going to be added on right from the get-go. Now, what we have to take a look at is exactly what you said. How well can this team gel together? But I think from a structure point and from a point of people that have won stuff, that gives us a little bit of an advantage going into the first season.
Yeah, and absolutely. And obviously, like you say, Miguel Angel Ramirez, he's very experienced, even though he's young at 37. He began his coaching career at 19, and he's well traveled, obviously winning the Copa Sudamericana in Ecuador with Independiente del Valle. Does his familiarity with a lot of the players, does that kind of quash that kind of talk about the squad taking a long time to gel, because he's familiar with a lot of them, so he has that experience and he'll be able to embed that in those players?
I think so too, man. I really do. I think one of the things that I've noticed about Miguel in every signing that I've gotten a chance to talk to is I've heard this from 3 different players. They said, after having a conversation with Miguel, I knew I wanted to come to Charlotte FC. So that lets you know you have a coach that just doesn't understand things tactically, but also understands how to motivate players. And that's very, very important, especially starting off in a brand new club where everybody's just new altogether. And I think that is very, very important to have a coach like that. And like I mentioned, even some of the signings, Miguel has said on himself, like some of the players that Charlotte brought in, that the players that he suggested to Charlotte already had them in the radar. So that gives you a testament to, okay, like our technical staff and the coach have similar mindsets. So like we're gelling something together. It's not a coach is bringing a whole new idea versus what our technical department actually wants.
Absolutely. And one of the players that Charlotte originally bought in, Riley McGree, obviously was then sold off in January back to the championship to Middlesbrough, I think it was, if I'm right in saying. Obviously, there were bids that came in previously for Sergio Ruiz, one of the first players in franchise history. Why do you think it was so important? And why do you think Charlotte rejected those bids and made sure that Sergio is going to be there for at least this inaugural season?
I mean, one of the things is, man, that's our very first ever signing. It is. I feel like it would be a bad omen to sell the very first player that you ever bought, and and him not ever playing here. I asked Sergio this question himself. I asked him, "Hey, man, you had a couple of bids from Spain, And he said his goal was always to come here, to try the MLS, to see what this league is about. And being the very first player in a club is historical. And he's absolutely right, man. And I think you're seeing that more. I think the MLS is growing, man. And in the next 5 to 10 years, I really think we'll be maybe not a top five league, but a sixth or seventh.
No, absolutely. And obviously the big international acquisitions there, it's not completely 100% over the line yet, but looking like Darwin Machis is going to come in from Granada. He's an exciting, obviously, winger forward. What can he offer Charlotte FC?
A lot of things, man. First of all, he can offer pace. He can offer experience coming off that wing as well. And I think that gels together the forward line, which is something that I think we have been lacking recently. Because I think we've got the structure of the team, we've got the spine, we're pretty good in defense, we've got a lot of interesting midfield players, but we were lacking that flair. Up top, we got Swiderski coming in, and now we're going to have Darwin Machis. So I think he's bringing that experience, and that's what we were missing. And we're going to have a more experienced forward line versus what we had 2 weeks ago when we didn't have Swiderski or Machis.
No, absolutely. And what formation do you see Miguel Angel Ramirez using? Because do you foresee a 3 centre-back system? Because I know he's floated between the 3 kind of centre-back systems and 4 at the back in his previous roles. And I'm just thinking about that due to the MLS in MLS transactions, because obviously Anton Walks, Christian Macoun have come in from MLS, and then as well as the bringing in Herman Corajo from outside from Uruguay.
Yeah, Guzman Corujo from Nacional. So it'll be interesting, man. That's something that we've been talking about as well. So right now, I'm not sure. I wouldn't know. I want to take a look at these next 3 games that we'll have because I'll actually be there and be able to see what we're actually going to do. So if I was a guessing man, it's looking like a 4-3-3 right now, but because like they don't give us access to what's going on, I really wouldn't know what to tell you right off the bat.
Absolutely. And being the inaugural season, it's really nice and really good for the local fans to see a local hometown player. So Jalen Lindsay was obviously brought back from Sporting Kansas City. How important is that for future generations of Charlotte FC, not only fans but potential academy players?
Yeah, so it's actually a great thing, man. I think that's one of the things our technical department has done a really, really great job of finding the right players for our club. Well, it's easy to say right now before at the end of the season, we'll be able to dictate that, depending on how well we do. But if you take a look, you have Jalen Lindsay, who's from Charlotte. You have Adam Armour, who's from Raleigh. You've brought in Brant Bronico, who went to college here and has ties with the city. So they want to make sure that the team has this city feel to it as well. And a lot of these guys are young, and we have a coach that has a proven track record of working with young players. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think that's the angle that they're going with. Like, hey, like, look, if these guys can make it, you kids coming from the academy have a shot as well. I've actually also heard that a couple of the kids that were part of the U17 Academy are training with the first team, and they'll actually be in Charleston.
Yeah, and I know the club were hoping for 70,000, I think it was, a sellout in the first home game against LA Galaxy. Obviously a big MLS franchise. Is that looking like it's going to be a possibility to get all the way there?
It's looking like a possibility, man. The president of the club, Nick Kelly, addressed the press last week and mentioned that. So the goal is 74,000. That beats Atlanta United's record. He said we're 10,000 shy right now. So it's a good shot. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but it's a good shot. And I mean, to already have 60,000 tickets sold for an MLS team here in Charlotte, that itself is already amazing.
Absolutely. And they've edited the design of the stadium, haven't they, to make it a bit more soccer friendly for the fans.
Right. Yeah. So I actually went to the renovations this week, and man, they're doing some great stuff there. They actually got a chance to tour the locker room. It looks beautiful. Like, first of all, the stadium's going to be shared with the Panthers, but the Panthers won't be going into that locker room. So it's not like a shared locker room that they'll have. It's completely for Charlotte FC. It's got the Crown logo on there. It's got a place to put your cleats, and the players will be walking through a tunnel where it's kind of like luxury kind of bar where people will actually be able to see them walk out of the tunnel as well. So a lot of the stuff that they did was also to cater towards the soccer fan, which I think is pretty cool. It's not just an MLS team playing in a football arena. It's a MLS team playing at their home.
No, absolutely. And I've seen obviously they've got the logo minted outside on the brickwork and the kind of layer, the foyer of the building. So that's cool. Talking obviously all new players, but which player, I think you've been to like an open training session in the stadium. Which player has impressed you the most so far? Maybe it's a prize player or yeah.
You know what? I think Jan Sobocinski is the defender that came from Poland, kind of young, but I think he's going to fit Miguel's style perfectly, man. Just he's very good on the ball, can give you a long pass, has aggression. It has a lot of the qualities that a Miguel type of player needs. And who else? Well, Sergio Ruiz, obviously, he's slotted right in. And I think those two so far.
Yeah. Well, do you perceive Sergio being the most important player for this team this season, or is it going to be?
I think so, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he's our captain our very first match. You know, just because he's the very first player, he brings with him. He's a La Liga caliber player playing in the MLS, which is a lot, which is saying a lot. You know, and I think him and Miguel already have a great relationship going in. I was at his very first training. I was able to see how excited Miguel was to finally have him in, which tells me that he's going to be a very, very important piece to this team.
Absolutely. And obviously David Tepper, the owner, very ambitious and not afraid to spend to see success. What expectations does this place on Charlotte FC from the jump?
Well, you know, I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with expectations because we are going to be paying one of the highest prices in the MLS, right? Because we're paying, some people are paying PSLs, plus our tickets probably range within the top 5, top 6 MLS clubs. So in my opinion, if we're paying top dollar, we better have quality on the field, right? Like it's different. Like, you know, like your expectations for your Liverpools, Man Cities are very different than your Burnleys and, you know, Brightons, teams that kind of that tend towards the lower end of the Premier League, right? Yep. So I think it's similar here where if the season isn't going well, one of the things that fans can always say is, hey, man, we're paying one of the highest tickets and the team isn't performing. So I think it'll be an interesting mix to see how these first couple of games will go.
Do you think, obviously we talked previously about everyone being so in sync and so in line with the philosophy and the model of the club that they're trying to build. Do you foresee, obviously David Tepper is very ambitious, if the season starts off poorly, like it does often for inaugural franchises, do you see him maybe getting a bit trigger happy, or do you see this long-term project going at least a couple seasons?
I don't, man. I see this more as a long-term project outside of what happens the first season. You know, I don't foresee, even if we have a really bad season, I think everything that the club is doing, and even Zoran, the sporting director, said, hey, we're planning for 3 to 5 years, not just one MLS season and shipping out 10, 15 players like Miami does, right? Like a lot of our key players have signed long-term contracts to be here 3 to 5 years to kind of establish that model of football that we want to play here.
Absolutely. And obviously with all new players and a new fan base, kind of obviously soccer loving fans, but a new fan base coming to support a new team, is it exciting for the fan base that there's not too many big name players coming in, so that they're going to grow with the players as well in terms of growing the stature of not only the players, but the franchise name in itself?
For the people that follow MLS and the people that know how this league works, they are excited about that. The interesting thing about the MLS is that people that don't watch it have this perception that like, oh, we need to bring in Zlatan or we need to bring in David Villa. Like, but I'm like, in reality, okay, Zlatan came in here, did great, but what did he win, right? Like for the people that don't know the MLS, I always ask him, hey, can you tell me the last 3 teams that won the MLS? And oftentimes they don't know who it is and they don't know the players that played. So that gives you an idea, okay, like that perception needs to change. Like the MLS is probably one of the most intricate leagues out there with DPs, GAM, TAM, allocation money, all these all these different factors. So you have to understand how to develop a squad that's going to be competitive and that can actually win the championship versus just trying to bring in a name to say you brought in a name. So I think, like I said, the people that know the MLS and understand it and are kind of looking at our squad and the coaching staff that we have are saying, okay, this is exciting. And then I think there's a small camp where they're like, yo, where's the big names that, like, I want to see like a Chicharito come to Charlotte. I want to see like a Higuain, you know? So I feel like there's that small camp and then there's the MLS watchers.
No, absolutely. I think, like you say, I think that's kind of a previous iteration or era of MLS where you bring in the big name players. Like you see the franchises that are still doing it, say LA Galaxy are still kind of caught up in the superstar model. Maybe that's because where they're based, and Inter Miami, like you said previously, they aren't the successful teams right now. The successful teams are bringing in the fresh, young, hungry players from Europe that are a bit under the radar in the global game. But,
Man.
yeah, and so obviously the US Open Cup's returning this year as well. Offers Charlotte a nice little opportunity for some success or a cup run outside of the MLS, bit of pressure off. Do you foresee the club really embracing that?
Of course, man, I do. I think what the club is going to try to tie itself is to success. You know, so if we can get success there or in the MLS, like even though the president of the club has put out some audacious goals for the club, man. They said, and Miguel backed them and said, we want to host a playoff game here in Charlotte. So not only making the playoffs, hosting a playoff game means that you're going to end in the top 4 position, right? So for a brand new MLS club, that's going to be very difficult to do. So I foresee them, okay, like being competitive in both tournaments, right?
Is that their goal for the first season? That's what they said.
Yep. So there's just 3 main goals: sell out the first game, have an average attendance of 30,000 fans coming to the stadium, and hosting a playoff match. Those are the goals for Charlotte FC's first season.
And if I was going to have to corner you, Jorge, and you had to tell me what you foresee, what's a realistic expectation for the franchise in their inaugural season, what would you say?
6th through 9th.
6th through 9th.
Ending that table. We're either gonna make playoffs or gonna miss it just by a bit. If I'm being totally honest, because in my opinion, we're in the harder conference. The Eastern Conference is full of quality teams. The last 2 teams that won the MLS, Columbus Crew, New York City FC, come from this conference. So we're going to get that. Plus, we're getting a Toronto that's bringing in some quality players. Plus, we have some teams with exciting coaches like DC United. You know, you've got Philadelphia Union, you've got New England Revolution. So you've got established MLS teams in our conference, and we're kind of the new kids on the block. And
I think I foresee the even the teams that finished lower in the Eastern Conference last season, I see them improving. Obviously, you've got the benefit of Nashville moving over to the Western Conference, which opens a playoff spot. But then you've got Chicago bringing in Xherdan Shaqiri. You've got Inter Miami revamping that roster and becoming younger and hungrier. Even, like you say, DC United, maybe they might take a back step this year. But in FC Cincinnati, their floor should raise a bit, even though I still think they'll be at the bottom of near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. So you think 6th through 9th. But if I had to get you on something, you say playoffs?
Yeah, I would.
7th seed?
I can see that.
Yeah, nice. And then,
which I would be totally happy with.
No, I think in an inaugural season, that would be an incredible achievement. And then and in the playoffs, anything can happen. You know, you see this year with New York City FC, you get hot and you can go.
That's it, man. Look at Colorado.
Absolutely. I just want to say, Jorge, thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate it. I hope we talk again soon, and keep up the good work.
Of course, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited to come back and show you that we finished in that playoff spot.
We'll talk then. Yes, sir. Thank you.